Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about The Mummy Returns. And this movie came out in 2001, directed by Stephen Sommers once again, starring Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz. I have seen this movie before. I don't really remember too much about it, other than some certain shots that stood out to me, and I also remember The Rock being in this film. Overall, I thought this movie was very bad. I liked a couple things about it, like Brendan Fraser. I still like him in this movie. He's kind of fun to watch. For the most part, I wasn't really bored. And at least it wasn't 2.5 hours, like it easily could have been. It's only a few minutes longer than the first movie by 5 minutes. And the best part about the movie, aside from all that, is the action when it's practical and in camera. Because the CGI in this movie really does not hold up. They use it as a crutch almost, and it just looks terrible. In the first movie, there was plenty of CG nonsense for sure, but I felt as though it was used a bit more sparingly in the first movie compared to this one. That's really what dragged it down, is that visual effects just don't really work for me. And also, Dwayne Johnson, he's not in the movie a lot, but when he's on screen, he is hilarious. And when he comes back on screen towards the end of the film as the Scorpion King, he looked just hysterical. I was laughing out loud. And around that time, that's when the movie was starting to get kind of good for me. Because I was like, yes, more of this, please. It's so funny. It just looked so bad. And that scene in general was really goofy. And speaking of things being really goofy, there were lots of over-the-top sound effects in this movie, and I know that it happened in the first movie, but it didn't happen too often. But in this movie, it happens so often, so frequent, it's basically a side character in this movie with the amount of times it's happening. I also didn't find any of the comedy to be funny. I just kind of cringed whenever we got comedic moments. And in the first movie, they didn't really work all that well to me, but they were just like, okay, that happened, and we just moved along, and it didn't detract from anything. But in this movie, I just really did not connect with any of the humor in this film. And just like the first movie, I didn't think the movie was interestingly shot. It was very boring in that sense. And it just felt like any other just random movie that you could pluck from 2001, and it would look exactly the same as this movie in terms of how it's shot. And despite me appreciating the practical action in this movie, whenever it's in camera, I didn't find any of it to be engaging, unfortunately. And also, I found the pacing to be kind of slow at points, where I didn't really feel that in the first movie. And notice how I'm constantly comparing this to the first film, because it's kind of impossible not to. Overall, this is just a worse version of the first movie. And another thing to note about this film in comparison, I mentioned that the first film, it just felt like a knockoff of Indiana Jones. It was incredibly derivative of those movies in general. Whereas this movie really feels like Indiana Jones. Everything that this movie is trying to do is just done better in an Indiana Jones movie. And also, there was one scene in particular that heavily reminded me of The Lost World Jurassic Park when we got to the tall grass. That was kind of distracting. And the exposition in this movie towards the beginning felt incredibly rushed. Apparently, Rachel Weisz's character has dreams, and they're just spouting out exposition just to get the plot going, and it just felt all rushed, and nothing was really given any time to be properly developed. And I'm not really sure if this movie had behind the scenes production troubles or anything, but in terms of my own personal enjoyment for this film, it kind of heavily reminded me of Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, where, sure, it's not the most boring thing ever, but there's so many problems with this movie. It's just a mess when you try and think about it, and just nothing makes any sense, and nothing really comes together very well. And the only things that has going for it is things are moving quickly so that you don't question how stupid everything is. And also some action that's, I guess, in there to keep you entertained with some comedy also. Like, they're just really trying to keep you entertained so you don't question how stupid everything is. That's kind of the goal of the movie. And that's about all I have to say about The Mummy Returns. It was really bad. I didn't really like much about it. There were a couple things that prevented it from it being like the worst movie ever. But that's not really saying all that much. And I'll never be watching this movie again, so skip this movie if you ever come across it. I don't think it's worth your time. And with all that being said, I'm going to give The Mummy Returns a 2 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos. As always, if you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below what you thought of The Mummy Returns, and my social media links. They will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see you when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for The Mummy Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.